Before I started decluttering, I did not know anything about it because I did not care previously. The only reason I wanted to start decluttering was because I wanted to live in a tiny house. And so I literally measured the space that I was living in currently and then compared that to the size of a tiny house and was like, I'm gonna have to get rid of some stuff. And I had gone to some tiny house workshops where they gave really good tips and talked about how freeing it is. So that's really what got me started. And of course, from there, I was reading books about it and blogs and eventually started watching videos about it. So let me share some of the questions that helped me early on. And a lot of these are probably similar to the life-changing magic of tidying up, but I also feel like it's helpful to have a refresher to remind you as you're decluttering. And also I'll probably add some newer ones that I've started to ask since I've been decluttering and clutter-free for almost a decade now. Okay, so I'm using my book because it has been a while since I decluttered, and even since I published the book. I believe that was December of 2017. So one of the questions I asked was, does it make me feel imprisoned? And I never would have thought to ask this question, but once I did, it was super helpful. So of course there's the, does it spark joy? But sometimes that's like, everything seems to spark joy, or you know, things can spark joy and also make you feel imprisoned. So maybe it was a gift from someone, so that brings you joy that someone thought of you and wanted to give you a gift, but then it also makes you feel imprisoned because you feel like you have to keep it even though you no longer use it or want to have it taking up your space. Maybe it's very large or outdated. So realizing that it can spark joy and make you feel imprisoned, and that if it makes you feel imprisoned at all, then it's okay to let go of it and you won't feel that anymore, and you can just keep the things that only spark joy and not these negative emotions. Okay, so the second one is, could I buy it or something similar or better in the future? So this can come around to the price of the item, but also maybe you were given something for free and you don't like that type or that style, but you also aren't sure if you want to live without it. So get rid of it and know that if you do miss it, you can replace it with something that's better or more. If it's like technology, there's so many advances, so you could get something that works even better. And shopping online is a fairly new thing, so we're all getting used to that and how easy and convenient it is. So even in my lifetime, it's so crazy. So remembering, like, yes, I can easily and affordably replace a lot of items. That helps to get rid of it. 3, would I be happier without it? So maybe it does spark joy, but it's also inconvenient because of the size or how much room it takes up in your space, and you could actually use that room for something else, or it takes a lot of time and you have to take care of it, or you feel obligated to use it because it's there. So maybe even though you do get some enjoyment out of it, you would get more enjoyment from not having it, and from having the space, the mental space as well, of not having to move it. If you move a lot, that can be another reason that you'd be happier without it, without having to pack it and unpack it and worry about if it's going to break or that kind of thing. So a big one for me is glass stuff. So I love glass stuff, but I realize it requires so much packing paper when we move, and this tiny little mug will become this giant stack. And so I have started being more particular, like, okay, maybe I can get by with fewer of these items, and I do feel like a lot of those products are more easily replaced. But it's tricky. And so also when I buy new glassware, I try to get rid of some older stuff too. So a lot of people will ask, like, oh, have I used it in the last year? And that one doesn't always help me because, one, if I didn't know where it was, or it was very difficult to get to because I had all this other clutter, then of course I wasn't using it. But now that it's accessible, I might actually start using it more. So I do want to test those items out and see. And then if I still don't use it, then get rid of it. And the other thing about that question is, sometimes I used stuff because it was convenient, because it was there, even though I didn't really like it. Maybe it's annoying to use, maybe it's annoying to wash, like certain appliances, but because I have it, I would still use it, and then I regret it later when it came time to clean it up. Or other things with clothing, like an item would look so cute on the hanger and I would put it on and I'm like, no. Which a lot of times it's the opposite. Like I will be like not wearing something because I'm like, oh, that isn't my style, or it doesn't look like it would be cute, but then I put it on and I like it. So I really do pay attention to those types of things a lot more now that I've decluttered more. Okay, the fourth one is, what else could I do with the space? So my husband just walked in from work. He forgot something, so I was like, what? Okay, so what else could I do with the space? So this is fun, like dream about what you want to do. I mean, think about it, living in a tiny house where it's just cozy and not overwhelming, and you really focus on the things that you love and treasure and want to be putting your time towards, and instead of having either this wasted space or a space that distracts you because there are so many possibilities. And so I love having, like, being able to focus on painting and making these videos, but I don't need a lot more creative stuff than that. Oh, and reading books. So those can go in and out pretty quickly though, for as far as supplies go. And I was so sentimental about the past that I didn't have room to be sentimental about the future or even the present. And so I loved that thought, and that totally changed my mindset once I decided to be more sentimental about the present and the future. And so what that meant for me was, okay, what do I want my memories to look like now and in the future? And how do I want to spend my time? And who do I want to spend my time with? And am I letting people from my past interfere with the people I want to spend time with now? And it doesn't mean that I'm not sentimental at all about the past. I still have some journals from my grandparents, and I'm reading through those and I'm probably going to give them away back to family if they want it. And if they don't, then I shouldn't feel bad that I don't want them anymore. But I did at least want to read through some of them, and it is kind of fun. I feel like they're back with me, but I don't have to keep everything from them, and I do still have wonderful memories with them even without the possessions. Okay, fifth question is, could it benefit someone else more? That makes it so much easier to let go of stuff, because we know some of our stuff is just sitting there not being used and it's perfectly good, and we don't want it to go bad or go to waste, but sometimes holding on to it actually makes that happen. And I have had some stuff have rodents getting into it and stuff while it's in storage. Thinking of someone else who can use it right now, like guaranteed they're going to use it, helps so much. And if it's something that I decide I want back, then again, I can go and get it. But I can go get it at the time that I want to use it instead of saving it for 3 or 5 years. The one I am probably the worst at is with keeping old notebooks and stuff, because I do go through them fairly slowly, but I know it's something I use, and so I have a hard time getting rid of it. But I have started to do a little more of that, and stationery too, because I realized I pretty much only write about maybe 15, maybe 20 letters at most a year, but I have so much stationery, it's crazy. So I'm still working on these myself. So the sixth question is it worth the trouble of keeping it? And so we kind of touched on that a little bit. Is it annoying to maintain? And I mean, this can go for big items. If you have 2 cars and you're thinking, maybe we could go down to 1 car. And sometimes that's feasible, sometimes not, I do realize this. But, or maybe you have 3 cars and you could go down to 2. Because then you're not worrying about insurance for another car, or maintenance for that car, or is it getting damaged, or, you know, washing the car, cleaning the inside of the car. So many things go into taking care of our items. Or if it is something that's blocking another area, and so you have to move it around to get to this other stuff and move it back, and you're continually doing that, that can be really annoying. And so maybe try getting rid of it. It's really exciting, honestly. Okay, but I know that is like, oh, it makes you so nervous before you've done it. But after, it's like, oh, why did I hold on to that for so long? Question number 7 is, would I buy this now if I saw it in a store? I feel like this is so repetitive. Like, I've heard a lot of people talk about this now, but when I was first decluttering, I had never heard these things or thought of these, but now it's like part of my mindset anytime I'm thinking about getting rid of something or buying something new even. Another way of looking at it is, would I pay full price for this? So maybe it's an item that's on sale and you are thinking you really want it because it's like such a good deal and such a good item, but would you be willing to pay full price for it? And if not, then maybe you really wouldn't want it or shouldn't buy it because it's not that great or helpful of an item. Like, you don't really need it as much as you thought or want it as much as you thought. But if you do and you're like, oh no, I would pay full price for this, but you are able to get it for a lower price, then that's just bonus. And so don't keep these items in your home if you wouldn't be willing to buy them now. It's okay. That's kind of a sign, like, it's okay to let it go. All right, the 8th question is, does seeing it or thinking about it bring me joy? And there are also different levels of joy, because it's so funny when helping other people declutter. They're like, oh yeah, this is like definitely keep. And then there are other things that and even for myself, where it's like, oh my goodness, yes, definitely. So like even just in the way that you say it, but the things that you're saying, like, oh yeah, definitely keep this. A lot of times they're still worth keeping, but it is funny the different response that certain items can get. But then there are some items that are just like, maybe, I don't know. And those are tricky because maybe they will spark joy at the right moment or a different time. And so you kind of have to balance, like, am I willing to wait around for that time to come? Or will that time come soon? Or am I going to be waiting for this item to bring me joy? And in the meantime, it is taking up space and robbing me of joy in a way. So with these questions, I didn't have to ask myself all of them about each item. Some questions would be better for some items than others. And some new ones I've started asking are like, can I live happily without this item? Has this item already served its purpose in my life? So a lot of times I'll buy stuff for a specific project and I'll do the project and then I'll still keep the leftovers, and I don't really need to because it's already served its purpose that I bought it for. Or it will come with other items that I didn't want. Like, oh, that happens so much, kind of annoying. Or sometimes I won't even end up doing the project, but I'll still keep the items. And I'm like, oh, I don't even want to do the project anymore. But that item served its purpose to let me know, am I going to actually do this project? And the answer is no. So I can let go of that. Another question I've started asking myself is, what if I were moving to my dream home location and I could only afford a very small place? So Hawaii or something overseas where you would have to ship everything. You couldn't just drive your stuff there. So really thinking about the most important things that I would want to keep. Or maybe moving to New York City and chasing a dream and having to live in a very small apartment. What are the things that I like so much and use so frequently that I would take them even in those circumstances and those situations? Or a tiny house. And another one you could ask is, what if all of my stuff got burnt in a fire and I had to replace stuff? What would I replace first? What would I replace because I use it daily? What would I replace because I use it weekly? What would I replace because I use it monthly? What would I replace because I use it every year? And maybe think about, could I live without those or make do? Could I borrow those things that I'm only using once a year? What else could I use instead? It took me about 6 months to become clutter-free to the point where it was manageable to maintain. So that's why I created the Clutter-Free by Christmas series. And the first video is the 30-day method. So if you haven't seen that, then go check it out, and I hope you'll join me. I would love to hear if you've been using the 30-day method and getting rid of clothing and books and entertainment items and kitchen stuff. I would love to hear your progress or any struggles you've come across when trying to do this so that I can address those in future videos.